Alright guys, welcome to another season of Ancient General Fishing. Today I'm gonna start the season off right by servicing my Wilderness Recon pedal drive. I did it last year and it worked out pretty good. So without further ado, I'm gonna start disassembling the top part of the unit itself. It takes a while. First you got to crack the bolts, which I already did prior. And you got to take your time because nice and easy, do each side a little at a time. And what I have is, I have it on a box. Probably could use some sort of drill type situation with this, but I like doing it by hand, nice and easy. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this apart, and then I'm going to come back to another segment. This takes a while. I mean, it doesn't take a half hour or anything, but it does take a few minutes to do it right. So just do a little each time, nice and easy. Try to do it equal on each one, and carefully take it off. All right, I'll be back. I mean, I've used and abused this thing for 2 seasons. Put a lot of hours on it, and knock on wood, it's pretty darn stable, this thing. But with everything, you should really maintain it. Anything mechanical. So again, there's probably an easier way of doing this with a drill, but I like doing this hands-on because you control the speed and there's no major worry for stripping anything as long as you take your time and just nice and easy. Again, I cracked the bolts prior. Not as difficult as you might think. Last year, prior to putting the bolts back in, I put just a light, I'm talking real super light, bit of grease on the actual threads towards the bottom. I would say halfway up. And lo and behold, it worked like a charm because it came off pretty good. So let's crack this thing off. Hold on, not crack it, let's pop it off, I should say. And just get a paper plate and just throw it in there. And again, well, I don't think I mentioned this, but last year when I put it back together, I don't even know if there's a torque recommendation, but all I did was I tightened it as tight as I could physically tighten it by hand without tapping it with a hammer or anything stupid like that. And it worked pretty good. Yeah, you can see some of the grease still on it from last year, just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to put these aside, but it can't be harmed. I should say lost, not harmed. And I'm going to pop this open. Nice and easy. Now the most important thing with this is, hold on. Get this camera right. Okay, the most important thing with this is when you take it off, nice and easy, right? Look at that. Okay, so put it right here to the side. This is going to go flying forward, so what you want to do is just put this over to the side carefully. And just leave it right there. Okay, so we're going to look inside here. Still plenty of grease. I probably didn't even need to do this year, but I'm going to put some fresh stuff in there. Yeah, this is not good. Hold on. It's too high right now. Move the box. Let's put this here. Alright guys, what I'm doing is I'm just getting some of the old grease out. I bought these foam things, painters foam, cheap, 50 cents, whatever they are. I should have bought more, but just want to get some of the old grease out. Before I pack it with some fresh stuff. I'm using Lucas marine grease, which is pretty good stuff. Very good stuff, actually. Top tier grease for marine applications. I'm just wiping it on a paper towel. It's just going to be a matter of repacking this with fresh grease. This turned out to be a good idea, this actual brush. I really should have gloves on, but I'll probably do that later on. Alright, so I got a lot of this out. Be careful not to get anything stuck in there. I should have mentioned earlier, there's a housing in here or a gasket. You just want to make sure you take the Allen wrench and just carefully push it back in before you do anything else. Just lightly, don't crush it, nice and easy. Just push it back where it belongs, along the whole length of it. This one stayed in this time. It may come out a little bit, but don't worry about it. Just make sure it's back in. Simple as that. All right. Yeah. Let me keep cleaning this up. Nice and easy, and be careful not to get the foam caught in there or anything like that. Make sure it's intact. Everything's in order. Let me get the final. Not final, but let me get whatever grease I can get out of here before I repack it. Fresh grease. What I'm going to do is wipe it down a little, turn it a little, put the rag in there. Turn it some more, put the rag in there. Flip the rag a little bit. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't like wearing rubber gloves. I don't even have any right now, so I'm just gonna wash my hands real well later on. All right. Let's see here. That should be pretty darn good. All right, so what I'm gonna do is wipe around this, very important. All right, no rush with this. Make sure you leave yourself a couple hours just to, I mean, I kind of enjoyed doing this. It's pretty cool. All right, so this is gonna be fun getting this grease out. It's on the bottom. So what we're gonna have to do is cut this somehow. All right, guys, so I cut this down. It's from last year. I've got another one just in case, but it's a lot of grease. But I like putting a lot of grease in because there's a chance that the grease might settle to one side, the way you store it and stuff. So I'm going to use one for the top and the other one for the bottom unit here. All right. Okay, so let's start packing this again. I know it's a lot of grease, but They actually recommend that you pack the entire thing with grease, entire housing. I mean, that's a lot of grease, but I can't see it being that big a deal or a bad thing, especially this type of grease. This is top level stuff. So I'm just going to throw it in there, spin it around a little, get it on the gears, and then I'm going to turn this thing a little bit and put it on the other part of the gear. Then I'm just going to pack it. Once these things are coated with this stuff, you can probably see in there, this is, once they're coated, careful, I don't want this thing getting stuck in there. That could be a disaster, but it probably won't happen. The foam is still intact, I'm not worried about that. Just keep packing it. Spinning, it's working very well. Turning. Let's turn back a little bit. All right, so you guys get the point here. So I'm gonna pack this heavily. I mean, I'm talking, I'm gonna get a lot of grease in here. I use this thing, I put a lot of miles on it. And with everything, as I said earlier, maintenance is very important. So some guys might say this is overkill, you're getting crazy with this, just put a little on the gears. I'm sure that works, but with this type of grease, it's almost like a wet application. This grease is not as clinging. It doesn't cling as much as the other heavier lithium type greases, but it provides superior protection in this type of an application, or any type of marine application. I'm not getting paid any money from any of these companies or anything like that. I'm just doing this because I realize that a lot of people have these pedal drives and they're reluctant to take them apart. It's 4 bolts, guys. That's all it is. Again, this is not brain surgery. I wouldn't rush it. I wouldn't worry about it. Take your time. Yourself a cup of coffee or something. Cold drink, and just make sure you have no distractions. I'd preferably do it in the house. Although if you have a shop outside or something, or whatever, that's fine. But you want to do it where there's no debris blowing into this thing. So this thing's pretty much packed. It's pretty darn good. I don't think I have anything to worry about with this. But I'm going to keep turning it, distributing it nicely. Let's see where it goes. And then I'm just going to load it to the, because I loaded this up last year and some of this grease dissipated. So I'm just going to keep putting grease in here. I'm going to go with the recommended amount on both this, because they say pump it in until you can't pump anymore. So I'd rather just do this during this type of an application by taking it apart and just nice and easy loading this up. All right, guys, as you can see, I packed this thing not to the brim. I left some room for the other side of the actual unit, which is the gearing that goes in there. And what I'm going to do with this is, let's do it this way. this out of the way. As I'm just going to wipe this old grease down. This is the easy part. Should really use a rag, not a paper towel, but it works fine as long as you're nice and careful. Just don't leave anything behind. Get this cleaned up nice. And again, one of the most important things on this is checking this gasket. And I'll show you that in 1 second. I'm trying to get all of this off of here. Put fresh stuff on it. Looks pretty good. Go around with a clean towel. Totally clean paper towel here. Just around the edges, not on the gears. Alright, so as I showed you guys earlier, before you reassemble this, always pack this right back in. Don't push hard, nice and easy. Just make sure you can use your thumb. So that's the most important part of this whole thing. To make sure it's in, it's seated correctly. Which mine is. This is overkill, but I'm meticulous when I do stuff. Alright, so on this now, I'm going to pack this with grease. This can get a bit messy, so let me carefully put this here. Get another bit of this grease. That should be enough at this jar container. I have a new one ready to rock and roll to the right. I'm just going to pack this on these gears very carefully, as neatly as possible. Because you're going to do a final wipe around the edge there. It's pretty much covering everything you can here. All the gearing. Alright, that looks pretty darn good. And I'm just going to get, once again, a clean paper towel. And just go lightly around the top of this. No, this is just extra steps I do. You really don't have to do that. But all right, so what we're going to do now is reassemble it. Now, I had it like this, and I'm going to make sure it goes back the way it's supposed to. So for that, guys, I had already taken a picture of it, which I recommend you guys do. Take a picture so you get the gearing just right. I'm going to confer or check out that picture I took, meaning the configuration of this in relation to this. All right. And I'm going to put it on. Again, level it, hold it, and nice and easy. You want to find the right gear. You want it to match up just right. You got to make sure it will match up. You just got to take your time. That's it. All right. That looks like it. Turn it sideways and double check. That's how I had it last time. It's exactly right. Okay. All right, guys, everything's double, triple checked. I turned this on its side. Let me turn it back the other way. That's just want to make sure I get this right. That looks about right. I'll hold it together. Let's turn it this way a little bit. Let's do it to the side. No. That's perfect. That's lined up just right. Now these bolts are already lightly greased on the end, ever so slightly. First one is going to be the most difficult to get in, but take your time, don't strip anything. Take your sweet time with this. See how nice and straight I have this? It's lined up just right. Loaded with grease. The gears are lined up the way they're supposed to be, according to the picture I took earlier, which will definitely help you tremendously. So what you want to do is get this one, it's hard to see, cut it about halfway in, okay? Then grab another one you already have again, ever so lightly greased on the bottom. Flip it over very carefully and slowly, nice and easy, and get this into the other one. I would do, obviously, crossways. So let's get this in there right. Let's try to at least, hold on. Let's do this. Don't strip it, take your time. Pull tight and make sure it's in even, nice and neat where it belongs. And just start it gently. Do not force anything. Keep it straight on. Say this is not, I don't like the way this is going in. Let's do this. Hold on, try another one. And let's just, there we go. It's had a bad angle, guys. This is not brain surgery. It's nothing to worry about. Okay, this one's starting nice. I'm pushing this nice and tight. See how nice and easy that's going in? Okay. Let's do this. Keep it tight. And I want to get these both in good. Alright guys, what I'm going to do is get these in, get the cross ones tight, put the other two in. All right guys, I got the 4 bolts back on. It took a while. It's gonna take a while. You gotta take your time with it. Of course, I mentioned earlier you should take a picture prior, and I lined it up exactly the way it was before in relation to the gear on the inside where it meets up with the where they meet up together, both of the gearing components. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is just going to tighten these up to where I had them last year. So, all right, so that's, can't turn them more without struggling at all. Tight though. Nice and tight. I can't reiterate enough how important it is to make sure it's all the way in before you do anything, because you don't want to strip these things. Nice and tight. And the last one, flip it over. Clean up, there might be a little grease around the edges. With this technique that I use, packing it good. And as tight as you can go without really struggling. So then after that, go around it a little bit. Double check everything one last time. Nice and even. Should be parallel to the lower part of the unit. And this is what I did last year. Everything was snug. Made sure it was all the way in. And I gave it a nice extra, just a little bit, nothing crazy. It's not, when it stops moving, you did enough. That's pretty much the torque ratio on this. When it stops, you're not going any further. So I have the Allen wrench, again, seated properly. Hold it nice, use the palm of your hand, push. It's not going any further, it's tight enough. And the final one. Not going any further, good enough. All right, so this upper unit is done. Packed with a beautiful amount of grease. Perfect amount. All these components are going to be well lubricated. And hopefully, God willing, I'll get many more seasons out of this if treated properly. It has some wear on it, but again, I'm an aggressive fisherman. I catch a lot of fish and I put a lot of effort into this stuff. And I pay my dues on the water. That's what I meant to say. I catch a lot of fish because I do pay my dues. I'm out there a lot, so that's where this wear and tear comes from. So now we're going to move on to here, the lower unit. We're going to have to pull this way, and this I can't reiterate enough. Be very careful. You're going to have to push down, pull it up, lock it as if you're on your kayak. And then you got to take these off. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now, and I'll get back to you guys.